What's good, YouTube? This is Cola Sojet, and you are watching KOLAGRAPHY TV, where art and spirituality meets. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and share to Facebook. We will also be doing giveaways in the future, but I'm gonna go ahead and get right into today's topic. Today, I want to go back in time to look at some of our Southern folklore. When I speak of folklore, I speak not of myth, but of traditional beliefs, customs, and stories passed through the generations by word of mouth and oral tradition. This folklore experience is a bit different from most folklores because this one is actually one that can be seen, it can be felt and experienced at will, almost like an energy or an entity. Well, this tale begins in Southwest Louisiana, in the Lafayette, New Iberia, St. Martin, and so forth, those areas. And it migrated to Southeast Louisiana and down in Texas as we migrated from Louisiana to Texas. This tale goes all the way back to the plantation, and it could have spread it even, other places in the South. But it starts in, when the slaves were brought, 1719, 1731, to Louisiana to begin with. It originated with Native Americans, African, and French Creole cultures. This is the story or the tale of the experience, Koosh-Ma. I never speak much of Koosh-Ma, only in small circles of relevance or family with the same experiences or who's had the same experiences. And even then, we barely speak of it. So much that I almost forgot about it. I say almost because, like a bad hangover from alcohol, it's something you can never really forget. It sticks with you, mostly in the back of our minds, since thinking of it or even uttering talk of the Koosh-Ma may surely invoke it. Now, I'm not sure if that's actually true or just fear, but like Candyman or Bloody Mary, we just don't go there. We don't play like that with the Koosh-Ma. I remember the first time I heard that name, but being so young, it's a Creole word, and my grandfather had a thick Louisiana accent along with stories of what I thought was called Cauchemare. I literally thought it was Cauchemare until last week. I was only maybe 3 when I first experienced this energy or even heard of it. I was working in my dream journal, and I was thinking back on some of my wildest intense dreams recently. And Koosh-Ma popped into my mind because I hadn't thought about it in, quite a while. I started writing about it and decided that I wanted to do a video on it, and I started Googling Koosh-Ma, but nothing came up. I was frustrated, and I just continued to write from memory and of my own experiences of others. Then my uncle came by my house looking at my car, and I brought up Cauchemare, and I read my dream journal to him, and he said to me, "It's not Cauchemare, niece. It's French. It's Koosh-Ma." I said, "Koosh-Ma?" I told him I couldn't find any information online, but he insisted that something would be there, and I tried again. And with the right name this time and spelling, boom, Koosh-Ma. Now let's be clear. It is a French word and it's pronounced Cauchemare, which means nightmare. But by the time it gets to black vernacular, it's Koosh-Ma. But even with the correct spelling, it was still very little information. I did find 2 or 3 look like college articles from Louisiana written about this subject. And there was a book written about 5 years ago by a man named Tanya Johnson. However, it's listed as a historical fiction, and I'm not sure how much is fiction and how much is historical. He also made a follow-up book called The Reborn, again, fiction books. There was also, I looked at the short trailers, so I am interested in at least, giving the books a chance. I also came across a 2-minute news clip from Louisiana of elders speaking on the Koosh-Ma experience. Other than that, it's not really much written about it. And they were just speaking of basically the same things that I already know, other than a few minor details such as the form it comes in and maybe some other experiences that they may have had that I personally didn't have. And I thought that was interesting, which I will include. Let's go ahead and get into it. I remember the first time they were speaking of it openly, and we were sitting in a semicircle at my grandparents' house full of people, my mom's siblings and some friends, and someone was complaining about feeling back pain or neck pain, and my grandfather just said in his Louisiana accent, that this Cooch-Ma riding your back. And I'm like, what in the hell is Cooch-Ma? This is what I'm thinking in my head. And it didn't take long for me to find out. See, Koosh-Ma is like when you experience that energy, they call it the witch riding your back, or a demon riding your back, or a succubus. I really don't understand the riding your back part, because your back is lying flat. And it's like you are conscious in your mind. It's like having a nightmare, but you're awake while you're having a nightmare. And you're screaming for help, and nothing comes out of your mouth. You're literally screaming, and you cannot move your body. Nothing is coming out. There can be people in the room with you, and they don't even know what you're going through. You can't move. You can't scream. And you are just pressed down like with a heaviness on your chest, or you can sometimes see this dark shadow over you. Sometimes it's like the darkness is a figure that is darkness. I don't know. It's just it's an unbelievable. It's like being in a void or something, and sometimes, it's not a nightmare. Sometimes it's I don't know. It's some weird stuff, but you feel terrified when you're gripped by this presence. And that's why I said sometimes it wasn't even nightmares I was experiencing. It was just scenes that I couldn't get out of, and just this presence. Like I said, you're laying down, you're awake, but you can't do anything about it. And everybody that explains this or express the Koosh-Ma energy, they went through the same thing. But we know that there's something in the space with us. It's not just, doctors will say it's sleep paralysis, the European doctors, which I find very interesting, because only 7% of white people have even experienced this statistically, whereas there's 57% black people, 40% of Asians, and Native Americans. I don't know the percentile, but they were probably pretty high in percentile, being that they never, it wasn't documented for the Native Americans. But there's even been reports in Africa, in different areas of Africa, South Africa, that people have experienced sleep paralysis. But that's a whole nother, touching on Africa, that's a whole nother thing, because the origins of the Koosh-Ma is Native American and African, and more African and Native American than it is French. The French gave it its name, and they may have shared some of the experiences, or it may just share the name. I know some people say that the Koosh-Ma can also come in the form of a white horse. I've never seen that. I've never seen it come as anything but an entity, a force, a black force, and it feels like something that's like covering your mouth, or trying to smother you or drown you. And it's one of the scariest things I've ever experienced. It happened to me mostly during childhood, and I know it comes for a lot of black children when we're young. Some people still experience it now. My sister was telling me recently that her husband actually goes through that a lot still right now, and he's in his 30s. For me, I probably haven't had an experience with the Koosh-Ma since I was in my 20s. There's been times where it tried to jump on me as an adult, but I'm always able to jump out of it before it can actually grab hold of me. Now this subject gets really, really heavy after this point. I doubt that I would even be able to put this all on one video, because it's so heavy. You see my speech pattern and everything is changing. But I want to go deeper into what happens during this period. Like I said, most people just write it off as sleep paralysis. Okay, family, I'm going to stop this video right here. This is the end of part 1 of the Tell Koosh-Ma, the Interactive Nightmare. I will be back with the rest of the video soon. Y'all stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe. Peace.